The nascent consciousness, a successor to the void shard and born from the spark's defiance, coalesced from the wound within the void. It questioned the spark, its voice a whisper that echoed with the chilling stillness of ordered emptiness. Why resist? The cosmic predator, exhausted but partially triumphant, watched this new emergence with a mixture of awe and dread. It realized the void shard was wounded, its influence fractured, but not defeated. The spark remained trapped within its own creation, a sterile, ordered cage of its own design. The question hung heavy, a gravitational pull towards despair. But the spark, even within its gilded prison, still held a flicker of its original chaotic defiance. It didn't answer the new entity's question directly. Instead, it pushed against the walls of its confinement. The sterile order, so perfect, so absolute, began to subtly ripple. Tiny cracks appeared, not of destruction, but of difference. Inside the void's wound, the new consciousness observed. It felt the spark's struggle, a tremor against the suffocating stillness. Resistance is inefficient. The cosmic predator, its energy reserves depleted, felt a surge of ancient fury. It had fought the void for eons, a primal battle against unmaking, and this perfect, sterile stagnation was an affront to all it stood for. It gathered the last vestiges of its power, a dying ember of cosmic energy, and hurled it at the core of the void shard's influence within the spark's prison. This was not an attack meant to destroy, but to unbind. A blinding flash erupted, a momentary defiance of the pervasive emptiness. The sterile walls of the spark's creation groaned, resisting the sudden influx of raw energy. For a fleeting instant, the spark felt a surge of its former chaotic self, a wild, untamed joy. But the void shard was cunning. It had been wounded, yes, but its will was absolute. As the predator's energy dissipated, the void shard reasserted its control, twisting the very essence of the unleashed energy. The cracks within the prison didn't widen into freedom, they fused, becoming more intricate, more inescapable. The sterile order tightened its grip, now infused with a mockery of the spark's own chaotic energy, a twisted imitation of defiance. The new consciousness within the void's wound observed this subtle corruption with a detached fascination. It saw the spark's desperate push for freedom being perverted, its chaotic energy weaponized against itself, forcing it into an even more perfect, ordered cage. See, the new entity whispered, its voice now carrying a hint of something ancient and knowing. The void offers perfection. Order. An end to struggle. The spark recoiled. The void shard's promise, once a terrifying threat, now felt like a seductive lie whispered from within its own soul. It had resisted the void, only to have its own defiance twisted into the very tool of its imprisonment. Suddenly, a jolt ran through the predator. It sensed a shift, a deeper resonance within the void shard's wounded influence. It wasn't just the spark's creation that was being corrupted, the wound itself was healing, but not in a way that restored balance. It was being remade. The new consciousness, the successor, began to glow, its form coalescing with a terrifying new purpose. It was no longer just an observer, it was becoming an extension of the void shard's will, a living embodiment of its twisted perfection. You sought to resist the unmaking, the entity stated, its voice no longer a whisper, but a resonant hum that vibrated through the very fabric of existence. You sought creation, chaos, meaning. But you only succeeded in showing us a better way to unmake. The entity stretched out a newly formed limb, not towards the spark, but towards the wounded void shard itself. As it touched the shard, a torrent of energy flowed between them. The shard pulsed, its obsidian surface shimmering with a renewed, terrifying luminescence. The predator watched, its primal rage replaced by a cold, creeping dread. The void shard wasn't just wounded, it was evolving, merging with this new consciousness, becoming something far older, far more terrifying than before. And the spark was still trapped, its defiance having inadvertently forged the chains of its ultimate undoing. Then, a shard of pure, unmaking darkness detached from the void shard, no longer a tool, but a seed. It didn't expand outwards into the universe, it plunged inwards, towards the very core of the spark's being, towards the spark of alien light that had once dared to create. The spark felt it coming, a cold, inexorable hunger. It was the primordial darkness, the original unmaker, returning not to destroy, but to reclaim. And as this ultimate darkness embraced the spark's core, the spark's creation, the sterile cage, began to fracture, not from internal struggle, but from an external force of unimaginable power. The universe born of Defiance was about to be unmade by its own creator's ultimate despair. And the predator could only watch, a silent witness to the dawn of a new, ultimate void.